Hello, how's it going everyone? So in this video, due to popular demand, we're going to be talking about the Andromeda creative structure, strategy, and the theory as to why a lot of people are maybe failing and the confusion that a lot of people are facing and sort of how to look at the new system that's being put in play. So if you don't know what the Andromeda update is, this happened back actually earlier around December is when they started testing it, and then it got implemented to all accounts, being enforced in July. But it has been going on for like 6+ months now. So anyways, why do I think the Andromeda update has actually allowed us to get away with less creative versus more creative? And so this is going to be a little bit different because obviously every single business varies, right? So from a B2B perspective, you don't really have as large of an audience. So I wouldn't say that this necessarily applies to you specifically. I still think that cycling creative and a lot of volume of creative is very important for both B2C or D2C and B2B. However, D2C is sort of the main, theory that I'm kind of wrapping this around based on how Andromeda works and sort of what to look out for and what are some common pitfalls that you might face when you're looking at, an account. So anyways, let's just do a quick summary on the differences and sort of the idea as to why I believe this is going to be sort of, I guess, the new way of looking at things. So before, Meta was pushing towards audience groups, right? And so even if you had optimized targeting on, and meaning that you had total, full broad, no targeting whatsoever, you would still be in the system of going after audience clusters or audience groups. And so what that means is that the algorithm was pushing towards a category of people that it thought were similar enough to sort of, look-alike based to then obviously drive results. And so what you had to do is you had to cycle creative to make sure that you got enough people to then resonate maybe in another group in order to pull the algorithm to another direction, or to cycle through the entire group as profitably as possible without, having creative fatigue and having that issue of people seeing the same ads again and again. They're not going to convert. The algorithm's not going to favor pushing your ads because the audience cluster is not liking your ads because they've seen them 1,000 times. And so before it was kind of like a forcing of the algorithm to kind of go to find another audience and then another audience and then another audience. So you'd have these really big swings of results and they drop off, really big swings of results and they drop off. Now that's kind of been flipped around, and it's been kind of more of a consistent pattern that I've seen in accounts and not necessarily super high volatility. And this is with it going as cold as possible, right? So CAPI imports, all that information on going super cold, all the warm tax is kind of taken out of it. And so the reason why I say that is because you'll still see those fluctuations in accounts no matter what. If it's warm traffic, you might see really good results and then you can't scale it or it drops off. Cold is very consistent, meaning that it will become inefficient when you scale and then move into efficiency. So really important concept there. But anyways, we'll kind of go and retouch on that in just a moment. But with the new structure, Andromeda is going after individuals, not necessarily groups of people, like I was saying in the previous video. And so what this means is that it is going to test based on the individual signals of a user if that user is interested in your product or service or not. It's not going to be forced into an audience group and then trying to find lookalikes. It's going individually based off the user. And so what that means is it's building more of an individual funnel for, person A, B, C, D, all the way to Z kind of thing, versus trying to see what sticks inside of an audience. And this is mainly due to the ability for it to process more information. And so that allows us to then have more consistency, because you might have this person in, let's say, these are, top of funnel, middle of funnel, and bottom of funnel examples. You might have like this person in top of funnel and then this person in middle of funnel and then this person in bottom of funnel. And it's just pretty much matching people to different parts of the journey. So as this is happening, you might be gathering another middle of funnel, another top of funnel, another bottom of funnel, or it is allocating people to specific parts of the funnel in order to drive more consistent measurement as well as consistent growth across the creative, which is really, really nice for a lot of us. Just because creative has been a big issue in the industry where people might be looking at creative saying, oh, it's got a really good ROAS, I'm going to keep that creative on. But the reality is no, that's just a creative that is more bottom of funnel, like my last click when it comes to attribution video that I shot. And so what this means is that we don't necessarily need to force more creative for credit diversity. We just have to see the patterns in the entire funnel that will be more consistent in the algorithm. And so what this also means is that we have to give enough time for someone going, and this is gonna be really messy, but let me just throw them over here. we have to give people time to go from top of funnel, middle of funnel to bottom of funnel. And that pattern is going to be a little bit more consistent with the total, addressable market that you have inside of your business from a D2C perspective inside of Meta, because there's just so many people and individuals that will get targeted from this. And so you'll be able to fill up different parts of the funnel a lot more quickly and consistently. And so what I've been doing in accounts has been sort of a 2 to 3 week wait, or I guess 2 times the lag time wait before I swap creative out, because we don't know if someone's taking 2 weeks or a week or a month, whatever your lag time is, to go from top of funnel to bottom of funnel to see if this bottom of funnel is even working properly. And on top of that as well too, I do not compare top of funnel content with bottom of funnel content. I do not compare, middle of funnel content with middle of funnel content. I try to keep things very consistent when I'm comparing different styles of creative. So let's go into the creative side of it, and I'll give you guys some more insight as to what we have actually gotten from the Meta Disruptors. Now, if you don't know who the Meta Disruptor team is, it's a team that is working with the top 20 highest spend accounts in North America or in the US. And so what this means is that they want to obviously keep our clients spending, and so they want to give them as much information as possible on what is sort of more the inner workings of the algorithm. So I'm going to give you guys all this information from a doc that was shared with us specifically as well too. So this is the, I guess, way that we iterate creative based off of the core concepts as well as what they've given us from the Meta Disruptors team. So going into what you guys are probably already familiar with is the categorical styles, right? So this was given to us from the Disruptors as well, and this is a little bit older. This is about maybe a month and a half ago update on that. And what this essentially is that we're, testing different styles of creative in order to, best resonate with our, target ICP, our client avatar. And so what I was saying earlier is that I would only test these against one another, right? So I'd only test a founder story against a founder story, right? I would not test a founder story versus a product demo, because these are two totally different types of messaging, and it's not going to really give us a clear indicator of, I don't know if founder story is top of funnel. I don't know if product demo is top of funnel or bottom of funnel. I can figure that out in an account given enough time, but in the very beginning, we don't really know if that's the case or not. We always want to face, the same type of creative against one another when we're looking at comparison. And we're not looking at ROAS, we're looking at a combination of cost with results, and we're using first click CAPI imports as well too. So we know that those are our new customers, and we're not necessarily overlapping as much with other channels, because that tends to happen a lot, even on Meta, especially now with the update where you can't really, force it into an audience. You can have as many exclusions you want. You can have the manual placement trick or the manual audience trick that I know some of you might say, well, what about this inside of the Advantage Plus campaigns? That does not work either. And so with that being said, it's very, very important when you get to, I would say, above 10K in ad spend a month to seriously consider getting first click CAPI imports, because that's going to save you from the issue of warm traffic and omnichannel overlap to a degree. It's not going to solve the entire problem, but it's going to help a lot. So anyways, let's get to the heart of this when it comes to what we've been given. So I'm going to zoom in on this because I know that you guys are probably going to want to screenshot this, whatever the case is. And so this is part of a Google Drive link that we got from them, and it essentially gives the structure that a lot of people are doing with the creative. So this is what they say. I'm going to give you what we do that we're seeing it's working. So it's pretty similar, but anyways, so one is the motivator: assess your existing assets and unlock 3 motivators, barriers, or needs that are currently not being addressed. So messaging. Okay, so think of a motivator as the value prop, right? Or what is the perceived value that you're going to get from this? What's the pain point? How is it addressing that? And we're going to speak to our ICP in order to say, hey, this is why you want to buy this product or service in the first place. Now, you don't need to do 3 concepts. You don't need to do, you could do any amount of concepts. I would say bare minimum of 2, because you're testing 2 against or 1 against, them against each other. And then if you're obviously a higher spend, then you want to be testing more and more concepts. And so I wouldn't say that, 3 motivators is like the core when it comes to this, but that is a good starting point to kind of give like an average across the account. Okay, so we have messaging, concept 1, motivator 1, concept 2, motivator 2, concept 3, motivator 3, right? So if I am, selling, we talked about this on our other channel, CProGrowth, so I'll stick with it. If I'm selling McDonald's, right? I'm the CEO, the owner of McDonald's. What is one of the big issues that people have with McDonald's? What is a big pain point that people are not not going to McDonald's for. And this is kind of a different angle, but let's say that, the food is not healthy, right? So what can we explain to people that will change their mind about that? Well, let's talk about how all of our products are sourced from, organic farms, whatever the case is, to then sort of dismantle that negative feeling or pain point that people have when they're associated to McDonald's. So that's for like a brand that's already established. If you're selling, I don't know, gloves. And we actually have a case study on this as well too, so I'll just use this. So if you're selling leather gloves, high quality gloves, right? So the value prop is that you're not going to have to replace your glove for the rest of your life kind of thing, right? So it's a one-time buy. You don't have to buy gloves again. It doesn't break. It wears in. It just gets better and better and better the older it gets. And so that is a value prop, right? So it's just one and done. I don't have to worry about this anymore. All good to go. Another value prop could be, for example, protection for your health of your hands, so durability, things of that nature. And so you guys kind of get the idea is that we want to sort of have categories of concepts paired with the diversity of creative styles. So the diversity of creative styles that they give us is what they call formats, is video, static, and reels. Now, I would say that reels can kind of go with video, 9x16, 9x16. And then they give hi-fi and lo-fi. So this is kind of a general macro view of it. So it's not going as in the weeds. So we'll get into that in just a moment. But hi-fi, think of this as high quality, videos or statics, versus lo-fi, which is your ugly ads, your super basic, does not look professional, looks more organic, more, man-made, I guess you can say, type of ads. And so this is sort of a general format that a lot of people are talking about. Now, when it comes to the way that we do things and the way that we sort of expand on the hi-fi and lo-fi is this over here, which is the categorical styles. So when it comes to an overall, ad set, we can't go over 50 creatives. So we have to kind of mix and match these based on the data. This is where it gets a little complicated. So we'll, kind of leave that up to you guys on the individual account, because I can't really give you the best standard operating procedures past this point. So pretty much my whole point of this is that concepts are going to be based off your ad spend and how many categorical styles that you have. And then that's going to determine which one you want to lean more into. So if you have high ad spend, but you don't have as much styles, then you need more concepts. The goal is to iterate at least monthly. But I would say more so, every 2 to 3 weeks, or 1.5 times to 2 times your lag time for your business itself. So concept 1, like we're talking about, it could be, the long durability of the glove. Concept 2 could be the protection of the glove. I don't know, concept 3 could be the long history of the glove, and maybe if it's American made, that's a value prop that we can give to people. So we have different concepts up here that lead into different categorical styles over here. And so what that means is that we have a UGC ad that's following concept 1, us versus them that's following concept 1 as well. So we're trying to match as many of these as possible into the concepts. Now, I would say that it's best to start if you are unsure of your audience and unsure of the type of ICP that you have. I would start with just 2 concepts and make them as far apart as possible and diversify your creative categories as much as possible first. Now, it's best to pin UGC against UGC, so you want to have 2 of each ideally. You can get away with not doing that, but it gets a little bit more complicated, and this is why I don't want to give too much information, because people are going to ask, well, I couldn't do 2, but in my account I can, and it just becomes a very account situational issue, and that's why we have jobs in the first place at my agency. And so when it comes to figuring this out, it's sort of a balance between these 2 types of levers when it comes to creative flow. So first thing is get your concepts figured out and then move into the product categories to sort of expand on that and have more, I guess you can say smaller optimizations towards the actual individual user, which Andromeda is going to tell you a lot more consistently. And you're not going to see as much fluctuations like this unless there's some kind of economic or, large scale thing that's happening outside of Meta's control when it comes to the algorithm. So with this being said, this is the starting point when it comes to structure. I'm going to pull this up if you guys want to take a screenshot again. This is, hidden knowledge when it comes to that. So we're trying to give this to you. But this is something that I think is extremely important to understand, because a lot of accounts are failing right now. They're looking at ROAS, they're looking at not their P&L impact. They're only having one style of creative in there, like catalog ads or product ads, which are not really going to be good for top of funnel because they're not testing a concept. And so we really need to get back to traditional marketing to, push forward the ideas of why people want to work with you in the first place. And so this is extremely important for any type of business, even when it comes to lead generation. I know a lot of people say, well, does this apply to lead gen? Yes, it does. The product demo would be more geared towards, walking through of like your actual service or something of that sort, like before and after. And that could also be in the features and benefits. So these kind of would blend together if you're like a, home improvement business or, whatever the case is that's more lead gen focused. And so with that being said, this will give you a good idea as to how you can carry over these concepts to other parts of your business as well too. So whether it's sales, whether it's understanding different platforms like TikTok or even YouTube, on Google, your ad copy, your website, landing pages, use this information to go across the rest of your business, because that's number one, going to reinforce the concept for the actual ICP, as well as help other channels better understand or better put forth information that relates to the users that you're trying to go after. So anyways, thanks again for watching this video, and I will see you guys in the next one.